Lived alone in an apartment with my pet Doberman Toby. I had moved away from my parents' place ever since I got a full-time job as an IT tech. Thanksgiving was just around the corner, and I had planned to stay by my parents' place for a few days after months of being away. However, although I was looking forward to it, one thing made me anxious: my mother. Being the eldest son who was still single, the task of caring for the woman who raised me was entrusted to me since she was now suffering from dementia. One moment she'd be on cloud 9, and then all of a sudden she'd be acting out of pocket like the girl possessed from the Exorcist movie. And if that wasn't creepy enough, I even saw her in the living room once talking to herself, laughing and crying simultaneously as she stabbed one of our family portraits displayed on the table with a kitchen knife.
He's not part of the family! He's not part of the family! He's not part of the family!
I had no idea what she was talking about, but after seeing a lot of videos online, everything was leading back to dementia. I didn't know how to respond to the situation, afraid she'd be ridiculed if friends or relatives dropped by the house. However, I vividly remember one of the videos talking about the ability of animals being able to alleviate the suffering of people diagnosed with chronic ailments. So that's when I stopped by the house with Toby one day and was greeted by my mother at the front door. She stared at me for quite a while, making me uneasy. So to withdraw from this awkward situation, I gently pulled my dog by the leash, thinking I should bring him inside the house. However, to my surprise, my mother gripped my other hand ever so tightly, saying,
"Get rid of that rodent! You understand me? I don't feel good around that dog!" How dare you! You're in no position to defy me.
Father finally arrived home from his long business trip. I remember seeing my mother placing a massive platter with a silver lid on the table. Away from the kitchen, the aroma was enticing and irresistible. My father and I couldn't wait to dig in. However, as soon as my mother lifted the silver lid, thing that was definitely a turkey, she glanced at my father and me, saying,
I thought of being more creative this year.
Since starting my higher education, I became close friends with a guy named Eddie. We would always study together even if we didn't have the exact same classes. We had our fair share of cagey, socially anxious students, but none were worse than Charles. Last semester, Eddie and I had advanced robotics together, so naturally we sat next to each other towards the middle of the room. Charles always sat as far back as the professor would let us, since it was such a small roster. I never knew much about Charles, except that he was a creepy loner emo type with long greasy hair straight out of the mid-2000s. He always wore the same black jeans and oversized sweater every day, so he had a bit of a smell to him too. But the most different thing about Charles was the way he constantly fidgeted during class, muttering to himself about this and that. His favorite thing was apparently Thanksgiving, because he talked about it all the time while talking in this weird, cheesy Joker impression.
Is it Thanksgiving yet? I can't wait to have some juicy, delicious turkey in my mouth. So close, so close.
I always wondered how such a clearly unhinged weirdo got enrolled into even a semi-prestigious university. But his skills in robotics must have been stellar to make up for everything else about him. I never wanted to find out though. But of course, the day came when the professor gave us a group assignment and told us to get into teams of 3. Obviously, Eddie and I were 2, but it seemed like everyone else was taken in a matter of seconds, leaving us with no choice but to work with Charles. The assignment was Thanksgiving themed, and we were supposed to have it done by the time we got back from break. For that reason or another, there was an insidious smile on Charles' face that gave both me and Eddie a really bad feeling about working with him. We all exchanged numbers so we could brainstorm over text. But mainly Eddie and I were just ignoring everything he sent us while we figured out ways to do the whole thing without him. Still, we knew we had to appease him somehow. So we both agreed when he invited us over to his house for an off-day Thanksgiving dinner, where we could discuss more concrete plans for the project. Charles said his parents were out of town for the weekend, so it would just be the 3 of us. Eddie and I tried to coordinate so we would arrive at the same time. That way neither of us would be alone with Charles. I texted Eddie when I left my place and he said he was already on the way, so it seemed like it would work out. When I arrived, I didn't see Eddie's car in the driveway. I made my way to the front door and rang up his phone once more, but still no answer. Then, Charles opens the front door wearing an apron with the most unhinged smile I've ever seen.
Happy Thanksgiving! I'm so glad you could make it. Please, come in.
Is Eddie here?
I think he should be arriving soon. Just come inside.
Right off the bat, I could tell Charles was acting strange, even more so than usual, but I went inside despite the weird feeling. I sat down at the dining table while Charles went into the kitchen.
Have a seat! Eddie should be here any minute now.
Okay.
You'll see there's already some sides out on the table. Feel free to have some. I'll bring the turkey out in a sec, okay?
Alright, dude. I was already creeped out, but I figured Eddie was close by, so I decided to shoot him a text, urging him to disclose his ETA and arrive as soon as possible. Where you at, man? What's your ETA? I need you here. It's so awkward right now. A few minutes passed and still no sign of Eddie. Not even a response to my texts. I started getting antsy and decided to call him. Right away, heard his phone ringing from inside the house. It seemed like the rings were coming from the kitchen. Eddie had a very distinctive ringtone, so I knew it had to be his phone. Quietly, I got up and crept toward the kitchen. His phone was blasting at full volume right around the corner.
Hey!
I was just about to step in when Charles came careening around the corner.
No guests in the kitchen. Get back to your seat, Mr. Snoopy.
Okay.
Have a seat. The turkey is done, so if you want some, I'll need to see some manners.
Okay, Charles. The turkey smells delicious. Charles was blocking me from going into the kitchen, so I was forced to go back to my seat. As I did so, Charles put the huge platter down at the center of the table and took the seat directly across from me. I was literally starting to shake and hyperventilate. Eddie's phone was still going off and Charles was staring at me with the psychotic look in his eyes. Is that Eddie's phone ringing in the kitchen over there?
Of course not. It's my phone. I told you already. No guests allowed in the kitchen.
I held my phone out and showed him that I was dialing Eddie's phone. A couple rings later, and it timed out. In the exact second, the phone in the kitchen stopped ringing.
I know you're lying. Where's Eddie? Oh, come on. Don't you want some delicious turkey? No, shut up. Tell me where Eddie is. I really thought you were smart. I can't believe you haven't figured it out yet. Isn't it obvious? Eddie is right here.
Charles lifted the dome off the platter, and on it was a turkey with Eddie's head. It was severed and sewn on top of a turkey, and it was moving. Wings, legs, and all. Even Eddie's face was smiling with ghastly wide open eyes.
Happy Thanksgiving. Ha 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 ha.
No, shut up!
And they quickly came to arrest Charles.
Myself in my bedroom, playing my favorite online games, as I rammed potato chips in my mouth, flushing them down my throat with a can of beer. However, just when I thought everything was perfect, my parents suddenly barged into my room one day, cussing me into getting a job. Get a job! We can't look after you forever, son! I mean, look at you! You're nothing but a massive blob!
Don't you have a dream, Louie? Isn't there anything you'd want more than just sitting around here all day?
Teary-eyed, my mom asked, "Your mother's right. There's gotta be something," my dad said, eyes scanning the four corners of my room, apparently disgusted. However, I remained fixated on the TV without glancing at my parents and replied, "Nope, I'm happy with the way things are." Why, you little shit! I ought to beat the fuck.
Is it Thanksgiving yet? I can't wait to have some juicy, delicious turkey in my mouth. Mmm. So close. So close.